The inhalation. They strapped her into the chair like they'd done 1,000 others. Cold metal cuffs on wrists and ankles. No padding. No questions. No pretense of civility. The room was white, sterile, humming with low-frequency noise meant to disorient and suppress resistance. Vera kept her eyes closed, listening instead. Footsteps. Machine hiss. A gentle click of a pressurized canister being armed. The smell of ozone and antiseptic. Subject 79A, said a voice. Clipped male, bureaucratic. Human female. Resistance fighter. Physiology within test range. Proceeding with fear compound Delta 7. She opened her eyes slowly. 3 of them stood behind a clear barrier. One wore a thin, armored robe, a rancor. The other 2 were lab coats, species unclear beneath masks and armor. High-caste scientists of the Galactic Empire. The room was theirs. The moment theirs. And yet Vera smiled. Proceed, the rancor said. Gas hissed into the chamber, blooming like fog from unseen vents. Pale violet, shimmering slightly with embedded nanites. Tailored to analyze brain chemistry mid-effect and auto-adapt to whatever would cause maximum psychological breakdown. Vera took a deep breath. Then another. They watched her eyes, her pulse readout on the wrist display, the neural feedback loop on the wall screen. Everything about this moment was designed to crush resistance. Other subjects had clawed their eyes out. Some begged. One suffocated himself against the floor. Vera leaned back in the chair and exhaled. Smells like comfort, she said, a lazy smile spreading across her face. Silence fell behind the glass. The rancor tilted his head slightly. Repeat that. She looked directly at him now. I said it smells like comfort. Like hot ash and burnt copper. Reminds me of Earth. Detroit, maybe. Or a burned-out crawl space under old docks in New Lagos, where I used to sleep. This is not possible, one of the scientists whispered. Neurological patterns show no spike in stress. No trauma signature. She's stable. No, Vera said, stretching slightly in the chair. I'm home. The gas thickened. The Empire's design was flawless, for most species. The nanites adjusted scent, visual hallucinations, and even auditory input to drag up suppressed memories of terror. But in Vera's case, the effect was reversed. She'd grown up with fear as a constant companion. Government collapses, alien incursions, food riots, biotech horrors. She didn't fear pain, she understood it. Didn't run from fear, she built armor out of it. The gas was meant to drown her in nightmares. Instead, it was a lullaby. I don't understand, muttered the rancor. Increase the dosage. The tech hesitated. It's already at 300% as standard. Her vitals remain stable. Slight elevation in dopamine levels. She's enjoying it, the second tech said, voice tight. The gas is rewarding her. Vera closed her eyes again. You built a weapon for prey. I'm not prey. I'm human. The rancor stepped back. Seal the chamber. But before the command could be confirmed, something unexpected happened. One of the techs staggered, clutching at his helmet. He fell, screaming. The other followed, banging into the control panel, knocking over a tray of instruments. What is this? The rancor bellowed. The gas was leaking back through the filtration system. Vera had said nothing, moved not an inch. But her neural feedback was manipulating the nanite protocol, a subroutine hidden in the earthborn wetware embedded in her skull. The gas, now adaptive to her mental state, was seeking to mirror her emotions and exporting that emotional code into nearby brains. The Empire's weapon was copying her comfort in fear and turning it outward. System breach, shouted the last standing tech. The gas, it's rewriting local emotional protocols. We're in the loop. The rancor slammed his fist on the emergency lockdown, but it was too late. The entire observation wing had been exposed. The fear gas was feeding on them now, reflecting her nightmares into their minds. But they didn't know how to live inside fear. They'd never needed to. Vera rose from the chair. The restraints hissed and unlocked, either from system override or simple malfunction. She didn't care. Tell your emperor, she said, as the rancor collapsed in the hallway, whispering nonsense to his unseen gods. that he made a gas to break minds. She stepped out through the glass door, boots crunching on shards of display screen. "But I was forged in the fire," she whispered, almost lovingly. "You just gave me air. Mind games." The alarm started seconds after Vera stepped into the corridor. Red strobe lights pulsed along the ceiling. Automated security drones, shaped like beetles with guns, skittered from wall panels and locked onto her. Her hands were empty, her stance relaxed, but something about her made even machines hesitate. Then the hallway shimmered. The gas was following her, crawling through ducts, sensors, and microfiltration systems. Whatever link she had forged with it in the chamber, psychological, neural, or was something else entirely, it had begun treating her as the emotional anchor. She was the center of a new network of fear. She kept walking. One drone twitched, began to fire, and then stopped mid-charge. Smoke puffed from its core as its targeting system overloaded. The others froze. Fear gas wasn't made for machines, but the Empire had recently upgraded their drones with adaptive neurosims to interpret emotional cues from combatants. Another mistake. Those simulations were now screaming. A voice crackled through the comms. "Containment breach on level 3. Subject 79A is loose. She's unarmed. Neutralize on sight." Vera turned a corner and found 2 guards, species unknown, carapace, tall for arms. Plasma rifles ready. She raised her hand slowly. "You boys from the outer sectors?" One flinched. She smiled. "Then you've seen fear gas do its thing. You've seen people curled into fetal balls, begging for death. Seen minds crumble like ash. And now, you're wondering why I'm still standing." "Don't move," one of them snapped. She took a step forward. "I want you to shoot," she said calmly. "You fire, the gas reacts. You panic, it adapts. It'll take your worst fear and make it real. It's already started." The taller guard's mandibles twitched. "She's bluffing." "Am I?" Vera asked, cocking her head. "Tell me, what's the thing that keeps you awake? The memory you buried?" "Because the gas loves secrets. It feeds on repression." They didn't move. They didn't shoot. And she didn't need them to. They dropped their weapons and ran. She continued deeper into the facility, moving with purpose. Her goal wasn't escape. Not yet. This station was a hub, one of 6 research labs dedicated to perfecting emotional warfare. The Empire believed controlling fear meant controlling obedience. They never imagined a species could be born into fear and become stronger because of it. They didn't know what humanity had evolved into during the collapse. In her mind, flashes of memory rose unbidden. Training rooms with no lights, floors that shocked the feet if you paused too long, screams played on loops while you slept. She hadn't been raised. She'd been tempered. Her lips curled into a grin. Smells like childhood. She entered the command spire's lower level. A long corridor of polished black alloy stretched ahead, leading to the neural core, where all gas protocols and broadcast controls were managed. Vera of Earth came a deep, mechanical voice from overhead speakers. "I am Lord Zareth. Stand down. You are surrounded." She stopped. "Hi, Zareth. Been meaning to talk. You are a statistical anomaly. Your resistance is not strength. It is error. I prefer survivor to error. Thanks. Do you understand what we are?" Zareth said, "We bring peace through control. A galaxy free from chaos. Fear gas is not cruelty. It is order." Vera snorted. "You ever try talking to people instead of drugging them?" A pause. "Your biology is incompatible. You were not intended to survive." "Oh, I know. You designed the gas to exploit fear like it's a flaw. But here's the thing, Zareth. Fear isn't a weakness. Fear is instinct. Fear kept us alive when the world burned. You tried to bottle a survival mechanism and forgot. We live in it." Zareth's voice grew colder. "You believe you are unique. I believe I'm the first, not the last." She reached the neural core doors. They slid open before her, unauthorized access ignored, as the gas merge systems now treated her as part of the architecture. Inside, glowing conduits pulsed with data, nanite directives, gas dispersal vectors, adaptive coding. She stepped into the core and placed her hand on the central control node. "I'm not here to run," she said to no one and everyone. I'm here to rewrite the rules. Data surged through her palm. Human tech and Empire biotech weren't meant to interface, but Vera had been augmented since birth. She'd never known clean air or silence. Her brain ran on combat protocols and childhood trauma. She was built for this. The system buckled for a moment and then bent. The gas's core protocol was rewritten. Its priority was no longer to trigger fear, but to amplify what she defined as fear. Her definition was not Empire standard. For her, fear wasn't a shutdown. It was a trigger, an ignition spark. Outside the core, across the station, alien minds began to fracture under the new waveform. The gas no longer broke them through brute terror. It turned their doubts into voices, their hesitation into rage, their repressed guilt into paranoia. They were unraveling. And Vera? She stood alone in the heart of their weapon, smiling. This is just the beginning. The breakdown. Lord Zareth stared at the tremoring images on the holoscreen. Surveillance footage, once smooth and precise, now jittered with static. Imperial personnel stumbled through corridors, wide-eyed and screaming, firing at hallucinations only they could see. Entire wings of the station were in chaos. Containment breached on all levels, his adjutant rasped. The gas isn't following program targets. It's adapting, but not to our profiles. Zareth said nothing. The silence in the command chamber thickened. How did she do this? The adjutant asked. She's one human. Zareth's eyes narrowed. She's not human anymore. Vera stood on the platform above the station's central core, watching the collapse with calm detachment. From her wrist chip, a stream of information poured into her visual cortex. Neural stress maps, environmental overlays, real-time fear signatures blooming like fungus across the Empire's sterile domain. They thought she'd come to escape. They were wrong. She was here to reprogram the system. The gas no longer obeyed its creators. She had rewritten the emotional thresholds, pivoted the neural calibration. Now it didn't simply attack fear. It sought out weakness masquerading as strength. It infiltrated pride. It magnified doubt. It whispered truth. She'd found the psychological fault line in the Empire. Its soldiers were conditioned, not hardened. They had never lived through true collapse. They believed in control. Vera came from a place where control was a fantasy. A place where kids learned to sleep through gunfire. A place where fear was just background noise. And now she'd infected their entire fortress with that lesson. In the upper spire, Lord Zareth slammed a fist into the command console, his claws denting the alloy. Activate Protocol Null, he barked. Protocol Null will vent all breathable air on the lower decks, his adjutant warned. That includes central control. The subject will die. Zareth's voice was flat. Then let her die. Alarms screamed across the station. Red lights pulsed furiously. Vera glanced up as oxygen levels began to drop. They're choking the lower levels, said a voice behind her. She turned. 3 humans, resistance members long believed dead, emerged from the smoke-filled maintenance shaft. Dirty, half-starved, but eyes sharp. Didn't think anyone else made it, Vera said. We were being kept alive for further testing, the eldest replied. Until you broke the rules. Vera handed one of them her secondary neural chip. They're venting the decks. Upload this to the local systems. It'll trigger emergency seal protocols. Give us 15 minutes tops. And then, she smiled. Then we walk into the heart of their empire and teach them what fear really is. The emergency bulkheads slammed shut, halting the oxygen drain. Vera and the others sprinted down into the inner transport tube, climbing toward the command level. As they moved, she spoke softly into the intercoms, tied now to the station's psychoacoustic network. Her voice filtered into every corridor. You trained your soldiers to follow orders, not to think. You told them fear was the enemy. You gave them drugs, programs, implants. You tried to sterilize instinct. The audio embedded itself into the minds of every Imperial soldier still conscious. But you forgot the truth, she continued. Fear isn't a disease. It's survival's oldest friend. We humans didn't conquer Earth in spite of fear. We rode it through fire, ice, and darkness. Somewhere, an officer opened fire on his own reflection, screaming. Elsewhere, a security captain began sobbing into his communicator. The fear gas had become a mirror, and Vera's voice was its guide. You made fear a weapon, and now you've given it to us. By the time they reached the command chamber, Zaretha's elite guards were gone. Some had fled. Others lay crumpled in corners, mumbling, twitching. The room was thick with the chemical haze. Zareth stood alone, his breathing shallow, his ceremonial armor trembling with each exhale. Vera stepped through the doorway, her boots echoing on the marble floor. I expected more, she said, almost disappointed. Zareth raised a plasma blade with unsteady hands. You think this is victory? I think this is the beginning, she said. He lunged. She didn't flinch. The blade stopped inches from her neck, humming, trembling in his grip. His eyes were wide. You're not afraid, he whispered. No, Vera said softly. But you are. He collapsed forward, blade clattering to the ground. Not dead, just broken. His own mind had turned on him, devouring the lies he'd built his identity on. She knelt beside him. You wanted a galaxy without chaos. Maybe next time, don't make fear the foundation. She stood, keyed the chamber's main broadcast relay, and addressed the station and the galaxy beyond. This is Vera, resistance operative of Earth. The Empire wanted to master fear. Instead, they met someone who mastered herself. We are not afraid. Not anymore. She looked into the camera. Now it's your turn. Seeds of collapse. The transmission spread faster than anyone predicted. Vera's face, blood-speckled and calm, appeared not only across the Empire's network systems, but on black market frequencies, rebel comm nodes, even pirate relay buoys drifting on the edge of explored space. Her message, a declaration of survival, of strength through fear, lit fires in places long thought extinguished. And with it came the data packet. Embedded within the stream was a viral program. A rewritten fear gas protocol, now calibrated to destabilize Imperial infrastructure wherever the compound was stored. It wasn't just psychological anymore. It was systemic. The weapon they had engineered to suppress rebellion was now an open wound in their control grid. Every facility using Delta 7 nanite dispersal tech began reporting containment anomalies. But Vera didn't stay to watch the galaxy crumble. She had one more stop. The Obsidian Throne, capital of the Galactic Empire, sat at the heart of a sunless system. A world of silver towers, black rivers, and a constant haze of warships circling like carrion birds. No one entered without being seen. No one got close without being vaporized. Unless the security AI at the orbital checkpoint believed you were a diplomatic envoy from a loyal subjugated system, and had just been reprogrammed by a nanite whisper the Empire still didn't know how to trace. Vera stood inside a sleek transport vessel, hands clasped behind her back, wearing stolen armor and a forged retinal mask. With her were two other humans, survivors turned insurgents, who had survived the gas, just like her. You really think we'll make it all the way in? One asked, peering through the viewport at the dreadnoughts below. We already did, Vera said. The shuttle descended. The central citadel of the Obsidian Throne was carved from stone mined from black dwarf remnants. Every edge gleamed with cold, impossible geometry. Statues of past emperors lined the corridor, tall, alien, monstrous. Vera walked past them all. No guards, no resistance. Word had reached even here. The fear gas systems had gone offline. Some palace servants had locked themselves in closets. Others had fled. Those who remained watched Vera with a mixture of awe and quiet terror. She didn't stop until she reached the door of the inner sanctum. Two towering guards stood flanking it, armor heavy with rank and pride. They raised their rifles, then hesitated. Vera didn't speak. She simply breathed. A small pulse of residual gas, still bonded to her bloodstream, drifted outward like a scent. It wasn't enough to kill or maim, but it remembered her. The guards lowered their weapons, eyes wide, and stepped aside. Inside, the Emperor waited. He sat on a throne of fused starstone, flanked by shimmering AI drones and frozen statues of every species he'd conquered. His form was cloaked in living metal, face hidden by a featureless obsidian mask. "You are the human," the Emperor said, voice deep and distorted. Vera approached unarmed. "I am. You should not be here." "I am." "Why?" She looked up at him, unblinking. "Because your empire built itself on the idea that fear breaks people. You assumed no one could wield it. But fear isn't your weapon anymore. It's ours." The Emperor stood. "Do you intend to kill me?" Vera shrugged. "What will be the point? You've already lost." "Lost?" he said, taking a step forward. "The Empire controls half the known galaxy. You control systems. Not minds. Not anymore." She reached in her coat and tossed a small cube onto the floor. It activated mid-air, projecting images from across the galaxy. Riots on a mining moon, military commanders shooting their own lieutenants, scientists barricading themselves inside laboratories, soldiers curled in fetal positions, muttering about the comfort gas. "It's spreading faster than war." "Fear doesn't need ships," Vera said quietly. "It just needs a memory. And you gave everyone one they'll never forget." The Emperor watched it all, unmoving. "You rewrote it. I didn't rewrite it. I reminded it what it really was. You taught fear to adapt, evolve, search for its host. I simply gave a new host." "Then you are now a weapon," he said, voice almost reverent. "No," Vera said. "I'm a story. One your soldiers will whisper to each other in the dark. One your colonies will tell their children when they hear boots outside. One you can't erase." The Emperor was silent for a long time. Finally, he sat back down. "And now?" "Now," she said, turning away. "You sit on your throne and wonder every moment of every day if what you're breathing is still air." She walked out. A week later, the Empire began to fracture. Commanders abandoned their posts, unsure who to trust. Border systems declared autonomy. The Empire's propaganda machine pumped out new lies hourly, but nothing stuck. The fear gas had seeded something far deeper than terror. It had seeded doubt. And doubt, Vera knew, was how empires died. She stood on the bridge of a stolen cruiser, watching the stars scroll past. Beside her, the resistance leader whispered, "So what now?" "We take the fight to them." Vera smiled faintly. "No," she said. "We let them fight themselves. We just keep reminding them what fear really feels like." And in the distance, the galaxy shuddered.